Hi, everyone. My name is Kathleen Wenck, and I'm here today to speak with you about addressing equity through project-based learning. Let me take a moment to paint you a picture. The year was 2000, and the real-world problem at hand was the Y2K bug. How would computers recognize the 00 at the end of the date 2000 rather than 1900? Banks were concerned about interest rate calculations, power plants were worried about water pressure and radiation levels monitored by computer software, airlines would worry their flight schedules would vanish. The average adult was worried their computer would simply stop working. However, I was not the average adult. I was 7, and my real-world problem was that my dog Tyson did not know his colors. I know. Maybe not the biggest problem, but I was concerned. I had mastered my colors at age 3, and Tyson was 6, which made him what, 42 in human years? At that rate, he was the same age as my parents. So I set out with a mission of teaching my beloved Tyson colors. I colored pieces of paper, the 3 primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. Each day for hours, I would say the color, point to the paper, and place Tyson's paw in the center. This went on for about a week, but Tyson still had not caught on. I did not want to give up on him. He was a good boy. So I started adding treats to the mix. I would say the color, move his paw, and then give him a treat. It took a lot of time, a lot of patience, and a lot of treats. But after a while, Tyson began putting his paw on the color himself when I said it aloud. I was elated. You have to understand that I truly did not see this as just teaching my dog a new trick. I had solved an important problem. I had saved his life. No, I changed his life. This is the magic of problem-based learning. At age 7, I had identified a problem that required critical thinking, creative problem solving, collaboration, and various forms of communication to solve. And it could not be completed in a day. This project took weeks to complete. I had reflected on what worked, asked questions when things were not progressing, and I revised when necessary. Without knowing, I had employed what the Buck Institute for Education calls gold standard project-based learning, essential project design elements. In gold standard PBL, projects are focused on students acquiring key knowledge, understanding, and success skills. The gold standard consists of 7 essential project design elements: a challenging problem or question, sustained inquiry, authenticity, student voice and choice, reflection, critique and revision, and public product. Students work on these projects for an extended period of time, from a week up to a semester, and they demonstrate the lessons learned through a public product or presentation for a real audience. Within this framework, students solve not only their real-world problem, but also learn the skills of critical thinking, problem solving, communication, self-management, product management, and collaboration. At its core, PBL addresses nearly all of the 8 essential skills of modern learning presented by Jukes and Schaff to aid learners in strengthening their 21st century skills. However, our students are not in their classrooms alone. There are gold standard PBL teaching practices, which help teachers guide their students to a more student-centered learning environment. Rather than the sage on the stage, teachers become the guide on the side as they encourage students to acquire key knowledge, understanding, and success skills through projects that personally interest them. The PBL gold standard for teachers includes the following: design and plan, align to standards, building the culture, managing activities, scaffolding student learning, assessing student learning, and engaging and coaching students. Within this framework, students are not simply given free rein to work on anything they would like. Rather, teachers create or adapt a project for their context and students and plan its implementation from launch to culmination while allowing for some degree of student voice and choice. Students must ensure their projects address the key knowledge and subject areas to be included in the assignment. Teachers must ensure they promote individual student choice and open-ended inquiry within the agreed upon subject areas. Although these projects can take weeks or even months to complete, teachers should manage activities and scaffold learning to ensure learners are not falling behind. As the guide on the side, teachers use formative and summative assessments of knowledge, understanding, and success skills, and include self and peer assessment of team and individual work to ensure students are meeting their goals. At the end, students will have completed multiple benchmark assignments and goals, which lead them to the completion of their project. But where does equity play a role in project-based learning? I did start this presentation stating that we would talk about equity, right? My goal is to disrupt education inequalities through using project-based learning practices in classrooms. In our current state of changing populations in education, there must be emphasis placed on whose story is told and who is represented in said story. PBL gives students authorship in sharing and telling their own stories. As educators, we must believe that all students can and deserve to learn. We must also believe that the student's voice, not the teacher's voice, is the most important in the classroom. Within the framework of PBL, students solve complex problems that are locally and globally grounded in relevance, which means our students must be authentic in their approach to understanding the problem's deeper meaning. If students are to be authentic, they must be in a space where they feel that their whole self is accepted, their race, gender, sexuality, and class. And then through a public display of their work, students see not only their own projects on display, but the work of their peers as well. Public education has the ability to bring students into a community where they can interact with those who might not be represented on their block, in their church, or who frequent their family's favorite restaurant. For a Black or Brown student who has been learning in a standard colonized education, PBL might be their first introduction to an education space where the voices of all students are heard and celebrated. PBL does not only address equity issues surrounding race. In mixed ability classrooms or multicultural learning communities, the opportunities provided by project-based learning can be a game changer in the development of informal reading skills and collaborative social skills. Moreover, it does not only apply to our grade level students. A case study in equity in higher education, South Africa has 26 public universities, which enroll most of the student population, as well as more than 100 and growing private universities, which enroll about 15% of the country's university students. Of more than the 1 million students, about a third are distance education students, largely at the sole distance education university. The post-apartheid dispensation has made strides in addressing past inequalities. Though policies, funding levers, and mergers, the demographics of the student population have now changed. Nevertheless, inequalities continue. On numerous measures, white students reap more benefits in and from higher education than do Black students. To address these issues of inequality, South African universities have incorporated the use of artificial intelligence, micro-credentials, learning analytics, open education resources, blended teaching, and quality online learning. Their driving question to address inequality in higher education is the following: whose interests are being served by new models of teaching and learning provision? Through the use of problem-based learning, the interest of all students, no matter their race or ability, no matter if their learning environment is in the classroom or online, no matter their education level of primary, secondary, or higher education, earn a place in the spotlight. Addressing these concerns will take education as a whole closer to reaching the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal of reducing inequalities. So let's go back to the year 2000, when my biggest concern was my Rottweiler Tyson not knowing his colors. I did not give up on Tyson. As educators, we cannot give up on education. Old dogs can learn new tricks, so long as they are being encouraged by a child that refuses to give up. Education can adapt and can be equitable, so long as teachers are employing projects that champion the individual voice and celebrate each student's success. Thanks so much.